Good evening, everyone. We're going to
This
begin
meeting is being recorded.
because we have a quorum. We have two members that are on their way. They'll be here momentarily. But we'll go through the roll call and all of those things before we get to the business part of the meeting. I'm going to call the January 17, 2023 meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Ed to order at 7:04 p.m. with a reminder to all those watching and participating to kindly participating remotely to kindly mute your microphones to avoid any background noise. This meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting consistent with Connecticut Public Act 22-3. The public may attend in person or electronically via WebEx. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available on the district website. I will call the roll. Maria Madonic.
Present.
Sarah Beth Delpreet is on her way, not yet present. Dr. Jay Daya, not here. Ms. Brooke Hopkins, walking in as we speak, so she is present. Jeff Hughes,
Present.
Steve Lawrence,
Present.
Dr. Michael Strambler, not here presently. Erin Williamson,
Present.
and I'm Lynn Piazzik, and I'm here. Staff in attendance this evening, Ms. Von Detenza, Superintendent, Ms. Donna Coonan, Director of Business and Operations. I think I see Ms. Carrie Borcherding and some of her friends remotely. Hello, friends. Ms. Annalisa Sherman is present in person. I see Mr. James Sapia, Assistant Principal, who is remote this evening, and Ms. Marcia DeGennaro, Clerk of the Board, is also remote. I'm going to ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Marcia, I'm going to ask you, I don't think there's any correspondence. Is that correct?
I have not received anything.
Thank you, Marcia. Public comment. If there's any public comment, would you please raise your hand in the participants list? I do not see any public comment. Marcia, do you see any public comment?
No, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand.
Thank you. Moving on to the PTO update. A written report from PTO can be found in Board Book. I encourage the public to access the report. Rushi, I see that you're on this evening. Is there anything additional that you would want to add or highlight?
Not really. It covered all the report as it all.
I'm sorry, Rushi, we couldn't hear you in the room.
Yeah, I just said that the report covers it all, so I don't really have to add anything else.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate the written report for everyone to take a look at. Thanks, Rushi. Consent agenda. The minutes from the December 19th meeting is included in this evening's consent agenda, along with a budget narrative, a budget summary, the detailed financial report, and the combining financials. Does anyone on the board wish to extract anything from tonight's consent agenda? I don't see anyone who wishes to do so. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Maria, second. Brooke? Motion made by Maria Madonic to accept the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Brooke Hopkins. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Marcia? Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to board chair. That'd be me. The first thing on the agenda is establishing an ad hoc committee. You will find in board book an outline of the composition and charge of the enrollment, instructional needs, and space planning ad hoc committee. I'm going to ask for a motion for someone to read that very wordy motion. I'll take a second and then we'll have discussion. Go ahead, Maria.
I move that we establish an enrollment, instructional needs, and space planning ad hoc committee comprised of the superintendent, Woodbridge Board of Ed chair, 2 Board of Ed members, a Beecher Road School principal, the director of business services and operations, 1 Board of Selectmen member, 1 Board of Finance member, 2 WEA members, 1 primary and 1 from the intermediate grades, and the facilities director, and a community member with a committee charge that the committee will review and address the physical, administrative, and instructional implications of increasing enrollment and student needs on the current physical space of Beecher Road School, and a report given to the full board at their September 18th, 2023 meeting.
Second. Stephen? Motion made by Maria Madonic, seconded by Stephen Lawrence. Any discussion?
I'm excited to see us do it. I
That's
think it's
good
great.
discussion. Yeah, I think so too. And I think the charge is fairly clear. Vonda and I worked on the charge and the committee members. And I think it's going to be a great committee. So we'll work on getting that underway once we take a vote. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous, Marcia. Thank you. Second, for the board, from the board chair, is the topic of a board retreat. I'm very excited to share information about a retreat for board members that we are planning for the end of March. Today, Vonda and I met via Zoom with Mary Broderick and Jack Reynolds, who have agreed to serve as our facilitators. This retreat will assist board members in forming a high-performing governance team by reviewing board member roles and responsibilities, reviewing board processes, and establishing board goals. 2 sessions will be scheduled. Marcia will be contacting board members via email to determine availability on a variety of dates. Please, board members, respond to Marcia as soon as possible, indicating your availability for each of the dates given so that we can find the dates when most people can be there. Mary and Jack would prefer that these sessions be held in person, but we will consider hybrid participation if at all necessary. So you'll be getting that email probably tomorrow morning. And as soon as we can get those dates set, there'll be 2 3-hour sessions in the evenings, 6 to 9, and we will meet here. Thank you. That's it for my report. Superintendent's report. Marcia, just so you know, 7:13, Sarah Beth Delpreet has arrived.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, all set?
I think so, because I think I need to mute. Okay.
Okay. So good evening. Last week, I attended the Reading Curriculum Legislation and Waiver Process webinar, and I'd actually like to thank the board members present that also attended that to listen. As I've shared with you previously, I also attended a BOA breakfast on Monday where our state representatives were invited to attend and discuss various topics with us, including this one, and how current mandates like this are taking time and resources away from our students. Additionally, at the end of the week, I met with my SCASA superintendent group for a wonderful networking session, and we further discussed this topic. And all of the information that I'm receiving from these different data points is aligned. Most districts are progressing with the waiver process, recognizing as we do that many current resources and practices are working well for many of our students. At this point, districts electing to complete the waiver must do so by the end of February. There is no information available on who will be reading the waivers, nor how they will be scored, or how any acceptance or rejection will be communicated back to the district. If rejected, the district will then either purchase an identified program or request a one-year extension to review programs, and that extension is due in July of 2023. It does appear that the legislation does not see the hardship of this mandate, as they feel that districts have the option of a waiver, so there may not be much appetite to change this legislation in the current session in any way. Woodbridge is moving forward with the waiver process, as I've shared in the past. It's important to note that this process has extensive paperwork, data submission requirements, and narrative responses to establish required question prompts. Our literacy group and multi-language teacher and administration is collaboratively working on this, and I would like to thank them publicly. They've been a delight to work with. They recognize the hard work, and they are still moving forward with a very positive attitude. And we are meeting every 2 weeks at this point to discuss, review, and move forward in small segments. Each district that is completing the waiver is noting the heavy burden of time that this needed to complete this. And we noted to our state representatives that this waiver option is not a guarantee that we will not have to move forward with a district purchase. As we complete the waiver, we are also securing information from vendors on the state approved list of programs to begin reviewing what comprehensive programs have to offer regarding structure, content, and approach. We have many high achieving learners in this district who need and deserve to be stretched and challenged to grow. We also have students who are not meeting grade level expectations in reading, and we are invested in learning more about best practices to reach them and help them grow as well. This aspect of our work focuses on professional learning. I have reached out this week as the state has expressed interest in seeking a third cohort of the masterclass professional learning around the science of reading. I did learn just this week, at the end of the week, from the State Department of Education that they were developing an opportunity for this third group of districts to participate. The first class began in June of 2022, and 11 districts participated. And in that cohort, district teams of superintendents, administrators, district and school literacy leaders, special education administrators, and multi-language learner lead teachers participated in 5 in-person events led by national reading experts, as well as online courses and content. And districts received individualized leadership and literacy coaching supports to help build systemic practices aligned to the implementation of the science of reading. I think that our district would benefit from this opportunity. The state opened up a third cohort, and we are going to, hope that we get in, and I'm going to advance the hope by several persuasive emails. I know those people well. So I believe that this professional learning such as this is much more valuable in helping all learners succeed than the purchase of a program. Just in terms of a quick budget update, Donna and I are currently working on the budget presentation to the joint board's presentation of selectmen and finance, which will be at this point on January 26th. We haven't been identified with the time yet. All Board of Education members are invited and encouraged to join us in support of your budget that you as a board adopted on January 4th. Regarding the strategic plan, which is also on our list for an update, this is a brief summary. So during the 21-22 school year, the school district began working on a new strategic plan with the leadership of consultant Judy Wilson. 3 goals were identified after 2 full days of many minds working together. Goals were formed around contemporary learners, academic framework, and building diverse alliances and building healthy alliances. Teacher co-chairs were established for each of these strategic planning action teams, along with an administrator and several other teachers. Each subcommittee met 2 to 3 times. The first meeting in September for each group was a virtual meeting with Judy, followed by the 2 to 3 monthly meetings in October, November, and December. During these meetings and in between times, groups formed action steps and conducted research and data gathering, guided by a common template provided by the consultant. Their work from September until December was designed to help them identify the responsibilities of who will do the work, the timeline of when, the resources that would be available or needed, potential barriers, and communication plans. Evidence of success and success criteria are included in the template as a method of subcommittee accountability. So that was the charge. Over the past 2 weeks, I've reviewed each subcommittee's work that's posted in their Google folder. I have touched base with each of the subcommittee's co-chairs to hear directly from them where they feel they are and what they feel are logical next steps. Last Friday, I video conferenced with Judy Wilson and obtained her insight on the process of the past and the good work of the group to date. At this point, all information I have gathered points to a need for a regrouping to focus our efforts and refresh our intentions. It is natural for people to slow down or pause when a leadership change occurs. It's expected. These groups were likely very interested in hearing if their newly appointed leader would advance the goals that were established or if they would cause a complete change in direction. I do support the goals that have been identified. I have no intentions of undoing the collaborative work that's done so far. I believe that the goals are robust with plenty of opportunity for people to hop on at points that are comfortable for them, which creates buy-in. I think that the work that the co-chairs have done as teachers shows such capacity and ownership and passion for the work. And it really should be their strategic plan. It's not mine. It's not the previous superintendent's. It's not Judy Wilson's, and it's not the administrators. We should be able to leave and the work should continue because the people believe in it. And I believe that's where we are. I do believe that there was a slowdown to see. So we look at this opportunity as a recharge. I believe the district needs to hear and see my support of their work and their beliefs. I have scheduled time for each subcommittee co-chair and administrative representative to meet virtually with Judy for 75 minutes or so at the end of January. I believe it's January 30th in the afternoon. Judy will assist us with a quick reset and review of current action plans and next steps, and will answer questions on the process that they currently have. After that, I'll work with the co-chairs and administrative reps to identify our next steps and will communicate them in an ongoing fashion. Judy's work with this process has focused around an 18-month strategy, which I know is an excellent way to build momentum and celebrate successes in reasonable chunks of time that grow capacity and success, revisit, recalibrate, and move forward again. Moving forward to the last piece of my update, it's an pre-algebra update. So in early December, on one of my transition days, interim superintendent Christine Syriac met with me and shared a great deal of information about the move to realign pre-algebra criteria so that it aligns directly with Amity, so that our grade 6 students have a more fair and equitable, accurate representation of the opportunity to take algebra in grade 7. So at this meeting, interim superintendent Syriac reviewed the Amity criteria that is currently in place for students to be eligible in algebra in grade 7, as well as the pre-algebra criteria that existed and some brief history on why this change was needed, and the importance of clear communication about these changes moving forward. Since then, I've met with the Beecher Road School math specialists and administrators and reviewed this work to ensure that we are clear with our expectations, our outcomes, and our next steps in communication. In board book are copies of the charts and the criteria that I can just briefly review with you verbally. Once these criteria are reviewed with the board, the administrators at Beecher Road School, in conjunction with teachers and math specialists, will share this information in a variety of ways with families in grades 5 and eventually in grade 4 for parents interested in looking into the future. These communications will begin in February and will be reinforced at multiple points along the way until placements are finalized. Parents will also be informed that next year, 23-24, grade 6 students will again have the opportunity to take accelerated math as an option. So next year, grade 6 students may take regular grade 6 math, accelerated grade 6 math, or pre-algebra if the criteria are met. The decision to skip grade 6 general education math and proceed to pre-algebra is a significant one that needs parental and student understanding of the level of dedication, hard work, and responsibility needed for success in this course that permits them to continue into Algebra 1 in grade 7 in Amity. It's important to clarify that the process, assessments, and cut points have been revised to align. It's now a two-step process where students must first meet the eligibility through achievement of math star data points. A student in grade 5 must achieve a 97th percentile or above on 2 of the 3 fall, winter, and spring data point assessments in order to advance to the next step in the eligibility process. So at the end of the spring cycle of STAR, if a 5th grade student has a 97th percentile or above on at least 2 or 3 of those STAR assessments, they are eligible to sit for the second part of the eligibility process, which is the district grade 5 placement test. On this test, for the second part of this process, the student must achieve an 80 or above. That is then combined with the 2 or 3 STAR data points to grant eligibility for pre-algebra in grade 6. It's critical to understand that the grade 6 pre-algebra course does not address math content or standards that are taught in grade 6 general education math. These two courses do not directly align, and therefore there will be missed concepts by skipping the grade 6 math that the student is going to have to be able to sustain. It also needs to be clear that not every student who takes pre-algebra in grade 6 automatically moves to algebra in grade 7 because the Amity criteria have additional requirements.
Thank you. Thank you, Vonda. I'm going to call on board members for questions or comments. Stephen, do you want to start tonight? Questions or comments?
Sure.
And can you make sure you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, if I can manage that, I can manage grade 6 advanced math. Just only question is with in terms of what we're teaching in pre-algebra, is that aligned with curricula that will feed directly into Amity's 7th grade algebra? You know, or is it apples to apples in terms of the concepts that will be taught?
So
Are you unmuted?
I am unmuted, yes. So we have asked, we have not yet received their exact curriculum, but we do have the pre-algebra standards that we are teaching to. So we're still working on exactly what does their curriculum cover. There's a bit of a sharing, you know, component there, but there are pre-algebra standards. So that is what we're teaching to. I can't guarantee that it's exactly the same thing class by class.
Do we know what's the next step after this two-step process? What's the additional hoop students will have to jump through to get into algebra if they want in
So if
7th
you look
grade?
at the chart, the next thing that they would have to do is they have to achieve the 97th percentile on all of their STAR assessments combined with one exception. So if they hit all 3 in grade 5, they're allowed to miss 197th percentile or above in grade 6. If they missed 1 in grade 5, they cannot miss any in grade 6.
Right. I'm sorry. I thought you said that there's an additional criteria they would have to meet beyond these. Because you
There
said
is-
it wasn't, you know,
right.
it wasn't
So
guaranteed they would.
if you look at the chart, then they have to have performance ratings at the end of grade 6 in certain classroom performance ratings. They have to exceed the mathematical claim standard assessed by the grade 6 teacher. And they have to take the pre-algebra final exam and achieve a grade of a B+ or higher.
Okay.
Those are the additional Amity criteria that they have to meet.
Okay, but nothing beyond that.
Not that I know of.
Okay,
Like, that's not according to the previous interim superintendent's conversations with I think it's the assistant superintendent in Amity. And he provided, I looked through all the emails, and that does align with what's on our chart.
oh, great. No, because I think it's helpful, because I think for some parents, there was a lack of clarity. And it may have seemed a bit arbitrary in terms of what the steps are. So I really appreciate this chart.
We're going to communicate
Very
all of
clearly
this.
outlining
Yep.
exactly
Thank
what
you.
the steps are. So if your child has achieved that, you can have a clear expectation that they will be able to.
And there is
move
no
into
waiver
Algebra.
into Algebra 1.
Thank you.
Anything else, Stephen? Okay, Sarah Beck, any questions?
Curious, how many students will have placed in for next year based on this year's test? Or do you not know that?
They won't have taken the Spring Star until probably May or late April, early May.
Maria, any questions?
I can follow back up with that though in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad that like Stephen said, I'm glad that there is a set pathway and set expectations for the parents. I think you touched on this in your previous answer, but my biggest question was on communication of this process to the families, and including communication on the fact that if they do take pre-algebra in 6th grade instead of 6th grade math, there are some concepts that are going to be missed, and so they may need to look to reinforce those concepts somewhere else. I think that was a point of a little confusion and misunderstanding in the past as well. And then I think the other question going along with what is the curriculum for pre-algebra and how does it align? I would also want to make sure that we're definitely hitting those points that students would need to take the pre-algebra final if they wanted to test it. So those are my only thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Just on the waiver process, after initial deadline, it's kind of just a sit and wait game is how I'm reading into it.
So that's why, in terms of the reading update.
Yes.
So we aren't going to sit and wait. So we will complete the waiver by the end of February and submit it. And in the meantime, we will continue to look at the designated resources because we're very interested in seeing what they are offering and how it might meet the needs that we uncover when we do our part of our waiver process is a needs assessment of what our data looks like. So we know, but we'll be able to confirm where our students are struggling, and then we'll be interested to see what those resources offer. So at the same time that's happening, we'll be gearing up for some curriculum revision and actual development of the language arts curriculum, which will help us determine further what areas we need to strengthen. We use reading and writing workshop. We clearly use other pieces of programmatic integrity. We use other pieces for language development, but we need to be able to see what else do we need and create a comprehensive curriculum. So we'll submit the waiver, start looking at resources that they're suggesting in the event that we are required. So that we would begin to know what's out there. The teachers need to be able to get their fingers into those resources to see. And at the same time, we need to be working on the development of a curriculum that supports our work. Eventually, the state of Connecticut will release a model K-3 curriculum for us to compare our curriculum to, but they indicated that they actually are working on the grades 4 and 5 curriculum first instead of the K-3 reading, which I know I'm not supposed to roll my eyes, but no. It rolled.
So essentially, waiver could go on for a while, the waiver process.
I believe they'd have to let us know by July because by July we have to turn around and request an extension. So my belief is that by the end of the school year, they would have to let us know because our most important resources, which are our teachers and administrators, walk out the door for a well-deserved vacation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. No
You're
other
welcome.
questions.
Erin?
No, the only thing I would suggest is as legislation rolls through session, if you do hear of bills coming up that are important for the community, if you can let the Board of Ed know so that we can then, and just share with the community at large, but I do know usually you get notice and it's like within 48 hours, there's a public hearing. But even if it is something that we are supportive of, or, you know, whatever, being able to at least share with our own networks of, hey, if you can write a letter,
Absolutely.
you know, and we can share it with people in other districts that we know, I think that that can be helpful. I think what I shared at the last board meeting is, you know, I think legislatures are used to superintendents writing letters and pushing for certain things. I do think in situations like this, hearing from like community members is impactful.
I agree.
So.
I agree. Thank you. And I will definitely keep you informed. I appreciate the support.
Thank you, Erin. Brooke? Okay. Just for the board members, information, Vanda and I met with Town Hall for our monthly meeting, and we did talk to them about some of the state mandates, both the HVAC mandate that will require money and this reading legislation. So we want to keep that out in the forefront of for transparency and in terms of costs that the town will be looking at. Okay. Anything else? Vanda, thank you so much for that very informative update on everything. Lisa, you're next. You know, Lisa, you can sit there. Well, if you want to stand, it's okay. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. To those of you in person and those of you virtual, I just have a few quick updates to share with you. The winter break obviously always interrupts our time between last meeting and this meeting. I do want to mention two things that happened before winter break. There was beautiful music filling our hallways before winter break, and I wish I could have videoed it for all of you, but some of our band students greeted our students as they were entering the building with lovely holiday music. They did one day at the north entrance and one day at the south entrance, which was amazing. So big shout out to our music department, Mr. Caldwell, Miss Fonda, and Miss Lemke for supporting that work, and to our band students who participated in that. And then another really big shout out to our third grade students who actually wandered the halls of Beecher and caroled throughout the hallways, and they sang a variety of winter songs and holiday songs led by Mr. Hutchinson and his guitar. For those of you that may know, he is an amazing guitar player, and it was just really beautiful and uplifting, and many teachers and staff commented on how much fun it was to have the third graders caroling throughout the hallways before the break. Also before the break, I wanted to mention that we had some really awesome writing celebrations. So as a workshop school, one of the things that we love to do is celebrate the work that our students have done during an entire unit of study. And usually that celebration is something just a little bit different or unique. Sometimes it's sharing with a buddy, sometimes it's sharing with another class, sometimes parents get to come in. So right before break, teachers were wrapping up their units and having these writing celebrations. And fourth grade students, I know some of the classes had their parents come in and they got to share their writing work with parents. And our second graders actually buddied up with some other classrooms, and they shared their nonfiction writing with partner classes. Mr. Sapie and I had the opportunity to attend some of those writing celebrations, and it was just a joy to see our kiddos enjoying their writing, enjoying their parents, enjoying their peers, and celebrating the hard work that they had done for a long time. Another thing that I want to mention, huge shout out to Mr. Sapia and a lot of our staff members. Actually, tomorrow we're going to have a peaceful bus meeting. Former board members may remember this. It is an opportunity. We haven't done it obviously since COVID, but it is an opportunity for an entire bus community to come together. And we follow a responsive classroom model where we end up having a meeting. There is a message, there is a greeting and activity, and it's really just an opportunity for the bus community to get together together. The focus this time is going to be around safety and really just an opportunity for our kids to sort of sit in a big circle, develop a little bit of a bus community, talk to one another, get to know one another a little bit. And Mr. Sapia has been leading the charge with this, working really, really hard to make it happen. And we have a lot of staff who have actually volunteered and given up some of their own time to help prepare for this event. And they will be leading these meetings, these bus community meetings. We do have buses that are very large, upwards of 60 kids. So it's a big undertaking, and also getting, 850 children to different locations around the building. But we have it all planned out. It's going to go great. And we're really excited to sort of have that happen tomorrow. I wanted to end, a teacher gave me this quote, and it's a Martin Luther King quote, fitting since we did just celebrate that day, but she gave it to me because she knew that it would speak to me, and it really speaks to Beecher and to sort of how I think and how I feel about Beecher. And since you all know that I'm a principal who loves to share these beautiful things, I'm going to share with all of you. So Martin Luther King said, "Occasionally in life, there are those moments of unutterable fulfillment which cannot be completely explained by those symbols called words. Their meaning can only be articulated by the inaudible language of the heart." And I just love that quote because it just captures what happens here every day. And sometimes on our Instagram feed, I like to post pictures, and I like to just share those quick moments. I did post a couple weeks ago where I just shared a couple of quick moments of joy here at Beecher that literally happened within a 10-15 minute span. But they happen all day long. Today I witnessed, big Mr. Taddy, tall Mr. Taddy, walking down the hallway, holding the hand of some pre-K students after he had just completed pre-K PE. And it's just one of those moments that warms your heart. And he came in the office afterwards, and he had done something really amazing and fun with him that he was so proud of, because it was an accomplishment for those little learners. And it's just, there's moments like that that happen all the time at Beecher. And I have very brief opportunities to share them with you. And I really wish I could share even more with you, because it's a pretty magical place here at Beecher. Any questions?
Any questions, board members? Other than our thanks, Lisa, for sharing all those wonderful things. Makes us feel like our work is important too. So we thank you for sharing. Board members, I would also like to call attention to the BRS enrollment, which is it contained in board book. You'll find it in board book, but monthly that enrollment report can be found along with our agenda. I want you to note that in thinking about our budget and our school and the needs and the ad hoc committee, I went back and looked at the December 2020 enrollment versus the December 2022 enrollment. And I want you all to know that we have an additional 30 students in that 2-year time frame. Vonda then noted in her report to the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, January 11th, that the enrollment from December 1st, 2022 to January 2nd, 2023, which was 1 month with a week off, we increased enrollment by 7. So we report to the state every year in October. So the October 1st, 2022 enrollment was 845 students versus the enrollment that you will see in this month's report, 863. So, we have huge enrollment. We're talking about 18 kids just since October. And I think we need to make the community aware of that. We need to stay cognizant of that. And so I really want to thank Marcia DeGennaro for preparing the enrollment report on a monthly basis. And I want you to be diligent about taking a look at it, because it's a real driving force, I believe, for this board. So I wanted to call your attention to that. Thank you. I don't know if anybody has any comments about that other than shocking. I think we have to consider the fact that a lot of districts are looking at declining enrollment and our enrollment is increasing. And that's something that I think in terms of our budget presentation to the town, and we have to make that information known. And in celebrating our district, as Lisa does so wonderfully, we also have to make that known in terms of what are the great things about Beecher Road School. People want to come here. It's clear that people want to come here for an education. So that's my little commercial break on our enrollment report. 3C is upcoming meeting presentations. February's board meeting will include an update on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if there is anything specific that board members would like to see in that presentation, if you could reach out to Vonda, reach out to me, we'll make sure that those, that your concerns or questions will be answered in that presentation. Town Building Committee for Beecher Road School Capital Projects update. Mr. Hughes?
Due to the break, there was no meeting, so nothing to report out this time, but we will be continuing our bi-weekly meetings Thursdays at 8:30.
But we
Virtual and hybrid.
we do have a date that we're going
We
to
do
throw
have a
out.
date, yes. A date has been established for a exterior walkthrough with the multiple town boards, and the date is February 1st with a snow date of February 6th. And that's at 3:45. So February 1st, 3:45 is a date set for a walkthrough of the exterior, just as we did the interior. And that's it in the building committee this time.
Thanks. You're next up as well.
I still have
Facilities
the
Committee.
microphone. Perfect. Thank you. The facilities committee met on January 5th, a very productive break from Vito and his team. Filter changes in the HVAC system were all completed, which is huge. From a facility standpoint, that's very easy to push to the side. They do an excellent job keeping up their HVAC system here, so that's awesome. The radon sampling, everything passed, the 5-year radon, so that's great news. There was 93 fix-it tickets completed that month, so Vito and team did an excellent job. It was also noted too in his facilities report that Vito uses the phrases, "we fix this in-house," or "I got the parts and changed this," or "we looked up online how to do this, we figured it out." I just want to give kudos to that. It's a huge testament to Vito and his skills. It saves the town taxpayers a ton of money. He gives it his all. I just really want to make that known. We're such a great facilities team. So I'd like to thank Vito and his team, always trying to find ways to save us money and learn as they go, which is nice. So thank you to Vito and his team. And that would be it on the facilities update.
Thanks, Jeff. Does anyone have any questions on either the Town Building Committee or facilities? Great, thanks. CABE Liaison Report. I look this way to Maria.
So they're back. Yeah, so just two things to report. They have announced that the legislative breakfast for Arcade Area 7 will be on February 7th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at the West Haven Board of Education, which is in City Hall. So last year, I know several of us went. It was in Brantford. It was great to hear what other school districts were talking about, the issues that they were dealing with. It was very COVID focused then, so it'll be interesting to see what the focus will be for this legislative breakfast. So I think it would be great if we had a group of people that could get together to come to that. And then there is a webinar coming up about the board's role in communication on Thursday, February 9th. Usually their webinars are from 12 to 1. And even if you can't make the webinar, usually if you're registered, they'll send you the recording afterwards. So helpful information, but that's all I have. Anything else?
Thank you. And so I'm thinking that the legislative breakfast, it would be a great time for us, as many people as possible, to attend in terms of the reading legislation, the HVAC, a lot of these unfunded mandates that I think we need to be talking to our legislators about. So it's a great opportunity. I encourage people to go to that. We're up to new business, open choice. Do you want to give a little update? And
Sure.
thanks.
So. Okay. Each year, we are asked around this time if we plan on filling spots with open choice that are created when sixth graders leave. So Lynn and I did talk about putting this on our agenda much earlier in the year so that we don't wait until the letter prompt that I got.
In the future.
Yes, so in the future, we'll be talking about this much earlier. So, but they do need us to indicate if we would like to fill our 2 slots that are created with exiting sixth graders. If we would like to fill that, we need to let them know by February 1st. So we currently have 18 slots. Like I said, 2 sixth graders are leaving, and we would fill them with kindergartners most likely so that they can, have the entire Beecher Road experience, which is just truly, as I'm learning, such a wonderful experience for any child. So, upon us is that decision. And, I know that there were some questions from the board about how does that reimbursement process work? It felt a little muddy last year. And again, while I wasn't here, we did discuss some of that muddiness. So at the bottom of the letter, Donna and I spied a phone number, so we called. I believe her name was Lynn Bailey today, who organizes this piece of it, and asked her some questions about the funding. And we did discover that we are entitled to bill for special education students, not only their paraeducator and transportation, but also any services, OT, PT, speech, anything like that, we are able to expect reimbursement for. So I'm going to turn this over to Donna because she can speak to what we did bill for last year and what we did receive, because it's important for the board to know.
Yeah, so last year we did bill for our open choice students, any service that was provided, even down to for example, if the teacher had 12 students in their class, 1/12 of that teacher, any para services, OT, PT, behavioral services, speech. However, and the sum total of all that was $262,000. However, we were only reimbursed for 1-to-1 paraeducators, and that included their FICA, Medicare, health, anything, and that's it. And so that was about $131,000 that we received, and so even with some phone calls to New Haven, this after I got here, because this bill was in April of 22 before I arrived. I talked to New Haven and they told me they would reimburse for paraeducators and for behavioral services, but I can see, I could reconcile the check to the bill, and we didn't get reimbursement for the behavioral services. And then upon talking with someone from ACES, our RESC, who said that we are entitled to those funds. So yeah, that's something that we can discuss going forward. She did give us, the woman, Lynn, she did give us the name of someone at the state that we can, she said file a complaint, but at least we can contact and communicate with to see about getting the additional reimbursement.
Which we will.
And
Follow up on for last year's.
Yeah.
Starting tomorrow.
But before we even had this information from Lynn or whatever, just in the fall, I did put a question out on the listserv of my professional organization, all the school business officers. And I asked you accept open choice students, what types of things do you get reimbursed for more than paraeducators and behavioral services? And it seemed like anybody that accepted open choice students from New Haven said, no, we get the same as everybody else. But if you are accepting open choice students from Hartford, they were getting the full reimbursement. So that was a little troubling to me because I've, thought, hey, if you're going to have a program, it should, be the same for everyone. Anyway, it was something that came to light today about that we are missing out on some reimbursement that we are entitled to. We're going to go after it.
We wanted to bring that to your attention. We didn't make that call until it was probably 3 o'clock. this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Donna, since you're reporting, currently we have 18 students, which would mean that we have 2 slots open with the 6th graders who are leaving. Can you give the board some numbers in terms of what does 18 students mean? What does 17 students mean? What does 16 students mean in terms of the other state reimbursement?
Yeah. It's roughly $4,000 that we get from the state per child, open choice child. So if we did not fill those spots, we would be getting, $8,000 roughly less than we are anticipating that we will receive this year. The reimbursement from the paras, that obviously if we don't have the para, we won't get reimbursed, that's a wash. But the $4,000 per student we do use to kind of offset our transportation costs currently.
And if we had 16 students beside the fact that, does that amount muted? No, not. Does it go down at 16?
It'll go down about $8,000 roughly, $4,000.
Still get 4,000 for every student?
For the remaining students, or the 16.
Okay, so I thought we had to have a certain percentage of students in order to get the $4,000.
You should have 2% of your,
Yeah, because we've grown, so I'm wondering what that means.
We asked the woman about this, and she was unaware where the enrollment numbers come from. We could be prepared to step down to that next step lower than the 4,000 per student, which would be 3,000 per student.
And she 2% of our enrollment is 17.26.
Yes. Yeah, but we're not sure if it's coming from the PSIS report. We're not sure where they're getting the enrollment data because no one has asked us for any since we've been here.
It may be that October enrollment.
The PSIS. Yeah.
Did you figure it out?
We just have current enrollment. That's what Donna and I did.
Yeah.
8:45.
16.9.
Okay, so before we have a motion,
I'm going to ask if there's any more questions for Vonda and Donna, because I think that the motion might be based on information that we might need. Go ahead.
So I don't know if you're gonna be able to answer this based on your call, but of the 121K that we didn't get, how much of that is like considered sunk costs? Like we would have spent that anyways. And so it's like, yes, we should have gotten reimbursed, but if we don't accept the kids, we're not gonna, we're gonna spend that money anyways. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you have a class and you have 12 kids, we're charging 1/12 of that class to New Haven, right? But if that kid doesn't show up, it just means we're gonna have a class with 11 kids. So I'm asking, but that's good. Right, but I still think it's important to know when we're thinking financially of it.
Okay, but if our numbers continue to grow, which over this number, that's.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
So in my estimation, I'm muted. It's difficult to say because at what point, I mean, maybe you could say the teachers for sure. But for something like, a speech pathologist or whatever are, you know, at what point is that person a 1.0 versus a 0.7 versus a 0.5 based on their caseload? Their caseload. And so,
Rough, can you give like a guesstimate? I know like you're a CPA and you like to do your numbers, but like, I mean, and I don't know, I'm asking.
right, but I don't know what constitutes a reasonable caseload, and I don't know
okay.
the caseload of some of these
Got it.
people. But if
Okay.
I could say, you know, I could have teacher stuff for sure, but
I appreciate that you're gonna try to go after that extra money, but what, do you have any sense that you're actually gonna get it? Cause I feel like we've tried before, so is this?
It wasn't about
yes.
getting it.
So she did share that we could contact this person at the state. And then we asked, well, will the state pay it if they don't? And she said, no, the state can reach out, this contact would have a person who reaches out and basically says, you know, pay your bill. But I don't know if we get it or not.
They also seemed to be aware that they weren't paying too. So.
Yep.
What, do we know what percentage? At 2%, we get 4,000 for child state reimbursement, but at what level do we go down to the 3,000?
You have to have over 12.
Anything less than.
She shared with us today that any number that we have over 12, you get the additional, they'll award you $3,000 per student, and any additional student over 12, they'll award you, if the state has extra money, which they have had, they award you the additional funds.
So do we know what the financial implications are gonna be of 18 versus 16?
Well, we think it would be $8,000, but if, and we don't know what goes into the year where they say we have the money or we don't, it could be $8,000 plus $16,000. If they determine this is a year we can't give the extra.
Yeah, because I'm getting 42 potential if that's what happens.
That would be
So if we do
24, right?
16 kids, 24, right? Sorry, not 42, 24, that's what I'm getting. So then, okay, so then I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So the 121K, this is all special ed, right? This is assuming a kid. I'm 31. 120.
This is 262 when we got from 31.
Oh, sorry, I wrote that down. Okay. So those numbers are based off of like kids who come into the district who just have additional needs, they have IEPs and the reimbursement rate. And for kids that come into the district and that's not the case, if we don't take on these two kids, we have potential loss of 42K in our budget. 24. Oh my gosh, sorry guys, obviously this is why I didn't become a CPA. Or, you know, but we have a potential deficit of 24,000. Okay, just want to understand.
On the high end.
Right, okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Stephen, sorry.
Yeah, no, I have financial questions, but I think as someone, still on the new side of the board, and I'll keep playing that card for a while.
You're not new anymore.
No one else has come in. I'm still the new guy. So what was our rationale for engaging school choice in the first place? And does that rationale still have value for the institution? Regardless, setting aside for a moment the fact that we're not getting paid the way we should be. Why did we do this, and how does that factor into our decision?
Well, I asked that woman I asked Ms. Bailey when we had that meeting, I had asked her, why should we take in the students? And it was basically came down to diversity. But I feel like our community is diverse now. And the students that we're bringing in primarily seem to be a lot of special ed children. So in my opinion, I feel like we're showing that a lot of children out of New Haven are just special ed needs children, which does not really teach our children about other diversity other than kids from New Haven have special needs. That's the way I look at it. I mean, but it's supposed to be a lottery.
People self-select.
Of course.
So you might get a greater portion of
Yes.
people entering that lottery knowing.
And
here's
this is
the
a lottery,
services.
right? So that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And you can also say that for the diversity aspect.
Anyone please?
The aim is to increase diversity, but it's a lottery, so we could technically bring our diversity in the other direction. So it's not a guarantee either that it fulfills its goal of diversity.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, I mean, we know there's not a lot of socioeconomic diversity in New Haven, which isn't to say that the children who are coming in via school choice are economically diverse. We really don't know. So I guess, there's the diversity piece. I mean, part of me wonders, I mean, I am inherently a proponent of school choice. I think it's important. I think this district is an affluent district that has rich resources. And to share that with 18 additional students when you have a student body of 860 some is not unreasonable. I do at the same time think if the city of New Haven should be reimbursing us fully for these costs, and they're just trying to dodge that, that's a problem, and that needs to be addressed if we're going to continue to do this. So, I have to say I'm kind of on the fence about this because I think that's real. I mean, if we were getting fully reimbursed, I'd be like, this is a no-brainer, let's make this happen. But if we're not getting fully reimbursed, it's like, at what point does that stop?
So just because you're the new kid on the block, a little bit of history is that we did have a small group of the board who met last year it was Lynn Bailey, right? To talk about process, about having the kids enrolled before school started, about reimbursement. I wasn't on the committee, so jump in, who else was on? And there were some promises, in a sense, or commitments, I believe, made by the open choice people, leaders, and I'm not sure that they have fulfilled all their obligations. So were you on the committee? Okay, so that was, yeah, it was 1, 2, 3 of you were, okay. So if you could give some background, I think that would be helpful for all of us to hear.
Yeah, if I could jump in, I thought it was a great meeting. They explained themselves well. It was a ray of sunshine at the end of that meeting. I thought, wow, they're really going to push for a reimbursement or whatnot, but time has told us otherwise. Essentially, my take is, we're opening up our doors. We're doing our part of the bargain, but New Haven's not doing their part of the bargain. What's the point? Why do we keep on doing this? And we have taxpayers to report to, and it's not fair to our taxpayers to educate children outside of our district, especially at a crunch like this now with you see an enrollment going up, especially mid-year. So just to bring that to light. Yeah.
At one point, I thought our town leadership had reached out to Mayor Elicker to bring this to his attention. Did we hear back from Mayor Elicker, and do we know what our town heard back? Or was that a dead end? Oh, okay. Okay.
One other question, are we taking open choice students from any other towns?
We do not, no. We occasionally will get a DCF placement of a student, you know, from out of Woodbridge, but not an open choice.
Yeah.
I just want to say, in thinking about this, like New Haven is a town.
Can you unmute?
I
Oh,
am.
you are,
With a lot of their own resources. And I do think that they are used to not having to pay their bills, not paying them in a timely manner either. And they're using towns like us when they send their students here. And I know that people, you know, if you look at our percentage and taking 18 students, but that still has 18 spots and 18 resources. And if a lot of them are requiring special needs, I know that you're trying to figure out what the percentages look like, but that's a hard number to figure out, I think. Yeah. So, and as far as Mayor Ellicott, I still say I really don't think he would care at all.
No, but I think that would be another, whether or not he would care, I think that would be another avenue through which we tried to do our due diligence and kind of say to that community, like, we have concerns about how this is manifesting and unfolding, and therefore, unless there's change, you should expect there might be change on our end. And so I had hoped that I had heard that our town was going to reach out. I'm sad that that didn't happen, because I think that that would have been an important step for our town leadership to have taken, given that I think not just school district wise, but town wise, we want to have good relationships with our neighbors, right? And so a lot of people from this community work in New Haven and vice versa. And so I think that I think that was a missed opportunity. So I'm sad that that didn't happen. That's why I was following up, to see if there had been that outreach, and then if there had been, what the response had been. Like, I'll look into this. We didn't have it in last year's budget, but I do, anyways. I have more hope in people. I'm a hopeful person.
Well, I guess the concern I have too is that the special ed, anything that is written in the IEP has to be signed off by the ACES coordinators. So they are assuming that responsibility, that will be paid at our rate. And they acknowledge that at the meeting. And again, you're telling us even now, we are still not getting paid for that. And again, percentages matter, but don't matter when it comes from the resources. If one of our if our speech teacher doesn't have to have the 5 kids in there and has 4, I mean, that's a huge resource gain for us. So to not be paid for that, even though we're already paying the speech teacher, I guess that's the way I look at it.
Maria, did you have anything? You all set?
No, just trying to keep track of who spoke. Just disappointment. I think again, like Erin, was hopeful that we were going to get reimbursed for the services that we were providing to keep the program. But, and my hope at the end of the year was, I thought we were getting some of those resources, but we're not. So, and one other question, I guess it may not be able to be answered, but do you know if we will continue to incur those costs next year? Or are we possibly replacing? Yeah,
That's identifiable.
Because then that's student confidentiality. They'd be able, too small of a number, we'd be able to identify.
If I could just add one more comment, if you don't mind, I'm an optimist at heart. And I always think the check is coming, but this is the 3rd superintendent we had this conversation with. So I think I'm finally giving in on this conversation, just for a point of reference for Stephen. So.
Well, and to follow up on that, I mean, and clearly we have a range of perspectives, which are all reasonable on this. Is there an opportunity to say to New Haven, either pay up or we're not taking any new students?
That was last year's meeting.
That was it. That's what that was. Well, then, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We've been down that road fully.
So, I mean, I'll throw out an idea. which is to perhaps vote not to take the 2 new students, to replace those and only take 16. And that in the letter that we write saying, no, we won't be taking any new students, that we make it clear why we are not taking any new students, and that perhaps that letter gets CC'd to the mayor's office.
I think if that's the road we're going down, and I'm not, I think that is good for like back pay, but I would like us to keep the door open for that, again, that this is brought up next year, earlier in the year, and that we then have the information of whatever success or not success you've had in going after this money, whatever response that letter has or has not gotten. And that, because again, I do think if we were getting reimbursed, I think we would be maybe considering this differently. And so I think that it should be, whatever letter is sent should clearly state that the district is keeping the door open to collaborating with Open Choice, to working with you in the future, if New Haven can agree to pay what it should be paying, and most importantly, what other districts who aren't participating in Open Choice are paying. So to show that what New Haven is doing is not what Hartford is doing. It's not what other entities are doing, that we're open to it. We would be strongly interested in reassessing, taking new students in the coming years. Again, if New Haven started fulfilling their obligations, which are being fulfilled by other districts. I think that's an important point that the letter goes. So it's very clear that it's not that we're opposed to the program. It's not that we're opposed to the concept. It's not that any of that the problem is that they're not meeting the obligations that they have agreed to under this program.
I think that's an excellent point.
Are there other towns that have stopped working with New Haven? Like they might already know this. So it's not, we're not really enlightening them here with this letter, right? We're just.
It's if it goes public. It's if the letter gets to anybody, I want it to be clear. Like I think for both our town, our constituents, the New Haven town, if people question, well, what was the board doing? What was their rationale? I think it's really important that it is written out in that letter so that people can't make assumptions that, oh, we're shutting down Open Choice, or we would never open. I don't want people to read into a vote we might take as being something other than what it is, which is why I think it's just really important that in any letter we send, that we're kind and we're gracious and we're clear about our support of the program in theory, but not in practice in terms of how it's operating right now.
Erin, I think that that's critical, especially in light of the lawsuits that are pending regarding housing in the town, that we are very clear as to our intentions and leaving the door open and why we are doing this so that it can't be misconstrued. It's fiscally irresponsible.
Yeah, I think Erin raises a great point, and plus our meetings are public and recorded, so I mean, this is a great dialogue. It's obvious, our sentiment, so I think it's important that the public does know.
New Haven's not giving us hope. Other agents, it's ACEs and that are telling us, yes, you are do this, you are owed this money. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it isn't as that we haven't sent letters to the school district, the New Haven School District, the superintendent, that made phone calls. There's really been an effort on our part to expedite their responsibility and pay, and it hasn't happened. I have, Vonda and I did speak today earlier about, as she mentioned, putting Open Choice on the agenda next year, either in October or November meetings, so that also budget impacting can be considered for what is this going to mean for our budget? Are we going to be $24,000? I mean, we budgeted, I think Donna has budgeted conservatively for what we're going to get from open choice, but it would be much better if we had this conversation earlier.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly ask, Donna, is it, I don't know how far back you can go, but this has been a pattern clearly for some time. I mean, even if we had, say, in the past 5 years, we've not been reimbursed for, is it 600,000 plus? You know, what if it was 131,000 for last year? How much are we talking about? I mean, I think that's really gets to be a significant figure.
Donna, you need to unmute.
Now, I do think there are some years before that where we understood the deal and we just billed them as they wanted to be billed. So there might, you know, that data may have to go back and be recomputed, you know, if it exists. Of course it exists, but you know, the director of that special services has turned over, all these offices have turned over, so that might be a little hard to get. But I went back as far as 2018 and I saw there was $42,000 unpaid. So, you know, just those 3 years that I.
Well, and that's not New Haven's fault if we didn't bill them. We can't expect in retrospect for them to have paid us, right? Like, I think we can only expect, I think we can only count what we billed and they didn't pay us, which is still a notable amount of money. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for 1 sec. Which is that I do think that open choice isn't, I just, it's like everything theoretically in me wants to support open choice. Everything in terms of what it provides to our community, our relationship with our neighbors, the message that we're sending to the larger society about openness and inclusivity, like all of that makes me want to, I understand the finances. I get it. Like I'm not, it's just, I'm weighing the finances versus theoretically what I believe in. And theoretically what I believe in is that open choice and programs like it are important, and they're an important part of society, and they're an important part of our community and who we are. And so there is part of me that's really struggling to shut down theoretically a program like this for a monetary reason. I'm not saying it's not an important reason, but for what is ultimately a monetary reason in what is ultimately a resource-rich community. And so I will just say, like, internally and where I am, that's a real struggle that I'm having. I don't know how I'll even vote when we get to it. I will say I added that thing because I do think if it does come down that the vote is that that's what we do for this year, I do think it's important for us to be transparent. But I will say also personally, it's very hard for me to consider voting against open choice for what is fundamentally a monetary reason, when even with the special needs kids, I can imagine being in that district and having my child needing additional resources that district might not be providing, and having the opportunity to go to a district that is providing amazing services. And I feel for those families, and I feel for those kids, and I feel for everything. And I'm not saying we can save everyone, but or that we can support everyone. I think this is I don't think it's an easy decision, and at least for me personally.
Aaron, no, I fully understand the struggles and I get it. Devil's advocate though, I'm worried about our own community too. I mean, we're literally at standing room only. I mean, those 18 seats are looking tempting for our very own children. So that's also how I look at it too, not just financially, but also space too.
don't want to cut anyone off, but any other, just go ahead.
I have a process question that probably won't impact this evening, but for open choice, do you only work with your neighboring towns? Like, for example,
We open out to Hartford.
or Bridgeport, or, you know, are there other,
I think
is that
that
too far?
amount of time the kids would be on the bus.
On the bus,
Amount
gotcha.
of time the
But what
kids would
about
be
like
on the bus.
Seymour or Ansonia?
But why would they want to send their kids? They lose
Seymour-
money. I think that's why New Haven is it too, wanting to pay or have the kids go.
Seymour doesn't participate, Wallingford no longer participates. Yeah.
Can I ask just one more question too? Is it a trend that more towns are leaving open choice? I asked the previous superintendent, that was a yes. I don't know if anyone has their ear to the ground.
The data for that.
Well, so actually that's raising an interesting question. So are we saying we are no longer accepting open choice students, or we're no longer accepting open choice students from New Haven?
We're not taking 2 new students if that's what everyone.
That's the only option.
Yes.
Is just
New Havens, I think, our only option.
It's just.
It's just the 2 new students. We're not shutting it down. We're saying we're not gonna.
Yeah,
Maybe,
so it's
but
just New
yes,
Haven,
yes.
but if
That's the only.
another
that's the-
town approached us, we would consider that at the
that's
time.
not realistic. Like, that doesn't have, Hereford's not gonna come to us.
Right.
Right, but
Like a private, if a
technically,
parent wants to pay and has money.
well, I'm thinking more like if there was a student in Ansonia who said, I'd rather be going,
I don't know if they participate.
they
in
wouldn't,
open
they don't
choice.
participate. Okay, okay.
And also there's one clarifying point. It's every year we vote on open choice,
Yes.
just as seats get.
When someone makes a motion, we need to make it clear for the 23-24 school year would be the motion. And then next October or, November, in that budget planning process, we would have this discussion earlier for the 24-25 school year. So, there's, just for clarity, we're talking about 2 slots. In a motion, it could be no students, 1 student, 2 students. That's what we're talking about. Correct? Yep. And the 16 kids that are currently in the building will stay in the building.
How many spots? How many spots are opening up next year?
Do we know how many
Can't
5th
tell.
grade students we have?
Oh, we can't tell.
No.
Sorry, don't have that information right now.
Oh, okay. Tell, you can tell them they're leaving.
Yeah.
It's not in the book.
Um,
Thank you if you say so.
when do we have to get the numbers okay, I'm just gonna be really transparent, which I'm noticing that our 2 board members who are people of color are not here tonight. And another reason it doesn't feel good to me right now is that we're having this discussion as an all-white board in terms of people who are present without our 2 members of color who are present. I think that they should be included in a vote like this. I think that it's important for them to be included. So I just think that needs to be on the table. I would like us to figure out a way to either call a very quick special meeting to have them included in the vote or the discussion or process, but I do think that needs to be acknowledged and considered.
I hear what Aaron's saying, I understand. It's an open invite, this meeting, we all can't make it at all times. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we move to continue our participation in the open choice program, allocating 18 slots for the 2023-2024 school year, with any vacancies beginning in kindergarten.
Do you want to leave the 18 that we currently have, or is that what you're?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 16 then. So allocating 16 slots. And if I could amend the motion to include a clear letter written for reasoning behind this motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second to that motion? Brooke? Motion's made by Jeff Hughes to continue participation in open choice program allocating 16 slots for the 23-24 school year with any vacancies, with no vacancies, right? Is that what is your motion?
Yep, with no vacancies and a clear letter of our reasoning written.
With a letter sent explaining the reasons, okay? Seconded by Brooke Hopkins. Is there any discussion of the motion? Oh, I'm not, sorry, I'm not unmuted.
All right, I'm going to repeat that just for. So the motion made by Jeff Hughes is to move that we continue our participation in the open choice program, allocating 16 slots, the current 16 slots for 23-24 school year with no vacancies beginning in kindergarten and having a letter sent explaining the reasons. Seconded by Brooke Hopkins. Discussion on the motion. Maria.
My only point of clarification on that, on the motion, would be, what if one of those 16 students moves out? And now you open up, just for argument's sake, and a spot opens up? Does this motion leave us, where would that leave us? Like if we reserve 16 spots, but let's say someone in third grade leaves, I'm just throwing that out there.
I think you added the word current, allocating the current 16 slides.
Right. Okay, up to 16. Okay. Okay, as I was just worried about the budget implications if that fell. That's my only question on the motion. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right. Anything else? I'm going to call the roll. Oh, Stephen, sorry.
I guess I did just want to add, I mean, Aaron, I'm appreciating your point. I was just wrestling with it because I think like you, I in principle strongly support open choice. You know, so this is a challenging decision. By the same token, I'm also feeling like we're being taken advantage of. And that, you know, I mean, if anyone's worked with a business, it's like the payroll and when we're going to pay you and all that stuff. And it's like, come on, people, get real. In terms of the two board members of color not being present tonight, that's the part I was thinking about. And I'm like, oh, you know, like, where do I stand on that? I will say this. We all have access to board book remotely. We can all see what the agenda is. If there's an issue coming up and we feel like we strongly want to be represented, we have an opportunity to reach out and sort of make that clear beforehand. That hasn't happened. Open choice is clearly a big decision. This was clearly going to be a hard conversation and decision to make. And, you know, our fellow board members, for whatever reason, are not present. So the reality is we are the board, we have a quorum. I think it's not unreasonable for us following this discussion to make a decision wherever we land in terms of that decision. So that's my thought.
Okay, I'm going to call now for the vote of Jeff's motion. Stephen?
Yes.
Sarah Beth?
Yes.
Maria?
Like my fellow board members, I think like all of us, we've grappled with this very much because I truly believe in the program. However, I don't think year after year, we can bring this financial loss to the town. And I think pausing it for a year will send a clear message. And if it doesn't, then we have to reevaluate how we are going to accomplish our goals as a district without a program with such a financial liability. So I vote yes.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
Brooke?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So Marcia, that's a 6 yeses, 1 no. Thank you, board members. Motion passes. Thank you, board members. Oh, that was a tough one. Is that right? 6-1?
I think good, healthy discussion to add, though.
A very good discussion, absolutely. And I thank you for being so thoughtful and reflective about it all. I'm going to make my community service announcement for this month. The curriculum committee is scheduled to meet on Thursday, February 2nd at 4:00 p.m. The policy committee is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, February 7th at 4:30 p.m. The finance committee is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, February 14th at 4:30 p.m. We'll be celebrating Valentine's Day. And due to the observance of President's Day, the next regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting will be held on the 4th Monday of the month, Monday, February 27th at 7:00 p.m. Item 5 is public comment. If you have a comment to make, please raise your hand in the participants list. I don't see any. Marcia, do you see any?
I'm not seeing any either, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Marcia. No public comment. We have no executive session this evening, and so I'm going to call at 8:35 for a motion to adjourn. Aaron? Aaron made the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Maria? Motion to adjourn at 7:35 p.m. made by 8:35. Sorry, I wanted to make it a really quick meeting at 8:35 p.m. Motion made by Aaron Williamson, seconded by Maria Madonic. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great evening.